I escaped the Galactic Council, for now. His ship was barely functioning, and the heart of Earth, still warm in his hands, felt heavier with each passing moment. But as he stared out at the distant horizon, something in him shifted. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about more than him. It was about Earth, and it was about time the galaxy learned the truth. Alex's escape had given him a temporary peace, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Council's ships would not give up so easily. They would be back, and they would bring more firepower, more soldiers. They would stop at nothing to keep the truth about Earth buried forever. But Alex also knew that there was no going back. Earth's power had been hidden for centuries, and it was time for humanity to stand up and claim its place in the galaxy. He couldn't do it alone, though. He needed help. He needed allies, humans who understood what had been hidden from them, humans who could use the power of the heart of Earth to fight back. He stood up and glanced at the wreckage of his ship. It would take days, maybe weeks, to repair it, and even then, it wouldn't be enough to fight off the Council. He needed a plan, a bigger plan. Alex, a voice called out from behind him. He turned to see the woman from the village, the one who had given him the directions to the ancient structure. She had found him, just as she had promised. "How did you find me?" Alex asked, his voice rough from the tension of the past few days. "I've been watching," she said simply. Walking toward him, "The Council won't stop, but neither will you. You have something they fear, and I've seen what you can do with it." Alex glanced at the heart of Earth, still in his hands. It pulsed softly, almost as if it were alive. He could feel it, power deep inside him, and he knew she was right. This wasn't just about the heart, it was about what it represented, the strength of humanity, a strength that had been hidden for too long. "You're right," Alex said, his voice steadier now. "But I need more. I can't do this alone." "You won't have to," she replied. "There are others. People who remember the old stories. People who know what we're capable of. We just need to find them." Alex looked at her, surprised. "You mean, there are more like me?" She nodded. "More than you think, and not just humans. There are others who are waiting for someone to show them the way, someone to lead them, someone who can use the power of the heart to bring change." Alex felt a spark of hope. He had always known that humans were more than just a forgotten species. They had been powerful once, and perhaps they still were. If he could find the right people, if he could unlock that power again, they might have a chance to fight back against the Council. "Where do we start?" Alex asked, his voice filled with determination. The woman smiled. "We start by reaching out. We'll need to make contact with the other humans who are ready to fight, and we'll need to find the places where Earth's power is hidden. There are ancient sites scattered across the planet, places where the old power lies dormant. If we can awaken them, we'll have the strength we need to face the Council." Alex nodded. The plan was risky, but it was the only chance they had. He knew the Council would never allow humans to rise again. They had kept Earth's secrets, hidden for a reason, but now, the truth was out, and Alex was determined to see it through. "We'll need to move quickly," Alex said, his voice hardening with resolve. "The Council won't give us time to prepare." The woman agreed. "We don't have time to waste. But you're not alone in this, Alex. We'll stand together." For the first time in days, Alex felt a sense of hope. It was small, fragile, but it was there. He wasn't just a lone man running from the Council. He was a leader, and the people who needed him were out there. All he had to do was find them. With the heart of Earth still glowing softly in his hands, Alex set his sights on the horizon. The road ahead would be long and dangerous, but it was the only path that mattered. Earth's power was no longer a secret, and Alex was ready to lead humanity into a new era, one where they would no longer be weak, forgotten, or hidden. "Let's go," Alex said, his voice filled with purpose. "It's time to change the galaxy." The quiet of the valley was broken by the sound of footsteps. Alex stood at the edge of the cliff, looking out over the land below. The wind tugged at his clothes, but his mind was far away, caught in the storm of thoughts and decisions that had brought him here. He had gathered his allies, and now they were preparing for the next stage. They were no longer just a scattered group of people with a few secrets. They were something more. They were a force, one that would change the galaxy. The mission was clear. The Galactic Council's hold on the galaxy had to be broken, and Earth's secrets, its power, had to be revealed to the universe. Alex knew it would be dangerous. He knew there would be resistance. But he also knew that humanity had something the galaxy had forgotten: strength. The same strength that had once made them the rulers of the stars. He wasn't sure how long it would take, but every day felt like a battle. Earth's old power had begun to awaken, and with it, the humans who had been waiting for this moment were rising up. It wasn't just about the heart of Earth anymore, it was about the future. It was about creating a new era for Earth and its people. Alex turned as the woman from the village approached him. Her face was serious, but there was a spark in her eyes. She had been a great help in gathering the scattered humans who were ready to fight, the ones who remembered the old stories, the ones who understood the potential of Earth. "They're ready," she said quietly, looking at the group behind her. "We've gathered as many as we could. They're waiting for you." Alex nodded. "We'll move soon. But we need to be careful. The council will be watching every move we make. If we move too quickly, they'll strike first." The woman agreed. "We'll be careful, but they won't expect us to be ready. That's our advantage." Alex glanced at the group that had gathered in the valley. There were dozens of them from all over Earth, people who had once lived ordinary lives, unaware of the power they carried. But now, with the heart of Earth and the knowledge of their ancestors, they were no longer ordinary. They had the potential to change everything. Alex's mind drifted back to the moment when he had first held the heart of Earth. The power that had once been sealed away was now in his hands, and it was more than he had ever imagined. But with that power came responsibility. The Council had hidden Earth's secrets because they knew the galaxy wasn't ready, but Alex knew that it was time for humanity to stand tall again, to take its place among the stars. "We'll need to split up," Alex said, looking at his allies. "Will hit multiple targets. We can't let the Council know where we're coming from. We'll attack their key bases and cut off their supply lines. Every move has to be calculated." The group nodded in agreement. They had no choice. The stakes were too high. They had no time to waste. The woman stepped forward again. "We're with you, Alex. We're ready to fight. We've waited for this moment for so long." Alex looked at the faces of his allies. They were strong, determined, and ready for what was coming. They weren't just fighting for Earth, they were fighting for the galaxy's future. "We all have a role to play," Alex said, his voice steady. "This isn't just about Earth's power. It's about showing the galaxy that humanity isn't weak anymore. We have a voice, and we won't be silenced." The woman nodded. "What's our first move?" Alex paused for a moment, considering the question. They had to strike hard and fast. They couldn't afford to give the Council time to react. But where would they start? "We'll start with the communications hubs," Alex decided. "The Council uses them to keep control of the galaxy. If we take them out, they won't be able to coordinate their forces. It'll give us the upper hand." The woman smiled. "I'll get the team ready. We'll move out in the morning." Alex watched as the group dispersed to prepare for the mission. Each person had a purpose, and together, they were more than just a group of rebels. They were the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. That is, the night stretched on. Alex found himself standing alone on the edge of the valley, staring at the stars. The road ahead would be difficult. There would be losses. There would be moments when it seemed like they had lost everything. But in that moment, Alex knew one thing for sure. Earth's time had come. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of. He wasn't just a man carrying the heart of Earth anymore. He was a leader, a symbol of humanity's strength and resilience. He had a responsibility to the people who had placed their trust in him, and he wasn't going to let them down. With a final glance at the horizon, Alex turned and made his way back to the camp. The mission was set. The first step in the battle for Earth's future was about to begin. On the remote planet of Talaris, the sky was a mix of orange and purple as the two suns began to set. The land was wild, covered in jagged rocks and dense forests that stretched as far as the eye could see. Here, the creatures were not only big, but they were also powerful, each with its own set of survival skills. But today, something unusual stirred in the heart of the forest. A dragon, a massive, powerful creature, covered in dark green scales that shimmered in the dimming light, walked slowly through the forest. Her wings, large enough to block out the twin suns, were folded tightly against her body. Her movements were careful, deliberate. Her eyes, however, were not focused on the surroundings. They were focused on the small, fragile bundle in her claws. A baby dragon. The baby dragon was small for its kind, its wings not yet fully formed, and its body weak. Its breathing was slow and shallow, and the mother dragon's heart ached with every breath it took. Her baby was sick, and there seemed to be nothing she could do to help. She had tried everything she knew, every ancient healing method her kind had used for centuries. Nothing worked. The baby's illness only worsened with each passing hour. The mother dragon had never known such helplessness. She, who had seen centuries pass, who had fought battles and survived the toughest of storms, was powerless against the sickness of her own flesh and blood. And so, she made a decision that went against every instinct she had. Would ask for help. But there was no one left of her kind to turn to. Her people had dwindled, scattered across distant lands. and those who remained were too proud to ask for aid. But now, the pride that had once defined her was nothing compared to the fear she felt for her baby. That the mother dragon searched the forest, her keen senses searching for any sign of life that could help. Her large wings spread, creating gusts of wind that pushed through the trees, rustling the leaves. She flew higher, her eyes scanning below for anything that might help. Then something caught her eye. In the distance, a figure moved, a small human, walking alone through the forest. She had seen humans before. They were strange, often weak compared to the creatures of Talaris, but this one seemed different. His pace was steady, his head held high, as if he were accustomed to the harsh conditions of this planet. And, to the mother dragon's surprise, the human seemed to be heading in her direction. Her heart raced, but she held her ground. The dragon had no idea what she would say, how she would ask for help, or even if the human would respond. Still, she had to try. She flew down, landing with a heavy thud in front of him. The human stopped in his tracks, his eyes wide with shock at the sight of the massive creature in front of him. For a moment, neither of them moved. The dragon could hear the human's heartbeat racing, but she didn't let the fear in his eyes sway her. She had no time to waste. "Please," the mother dragon spoke in a low, rumbling voice. It was the first time she had ever spoken to a human, and the words came out broken, hesitant. "Please, help my baby." The human stared, mouth slightly open. He didn't speak immediately. He seemed to be trying to make sense of what was happening, as if he had never imagined that a dragon would speak to him, let alone ask for help. The mother dragon's heart twisted. She knew that she had only moments before her baby's condition worsened even more. She had to act now. "You must know the healing ways," the dragon continued, more urgently this time. "I've tried all I can, but my baby it's dying." The human blinked, still frozen. His gaze shifted to the baby dragon, its tiny, fragile body cradled in the mother's claws. Ethan, for that was what the human was called, felt a sudden pang of sympathy. The dragon's eyes, full of pain and fear, were not the eyes of a monster. They were the eyes of a mother. Ethan's mind raced. He was a medic, a healer by trade, but the creatures on this planet were unlike anything he had ever encountered. The dragon's baby, he had no idea what was wrong with it. He didn't even know if he had the right tools or skills to help. Still, he couldn't just walk away. I'm not sure if I can help," Ethan said, his voice trembling slightly, "but I'll try." The dragon, sensing his hesitation, felt a wave of frustration. She had not known that asking for help would be so difficult, but her desperation for her baby overcame everything else. "Please," she said again, her voice softer this time, full of raw emotion. "I will do anything. I just want to save my child." For a moment, the two of them stood there, one full of doubt and fear, the other full of hope and desperation. Then, without another word, Ethan stepped forward, carefully approaching the baby dragon. The mother dragon slowly pulled her baby closer to him, her sharp claws trembling with anxiety. Ethan took a deep breath and gently placed his hands on the baby's chest, feeling for any signs of life. The small body was cold, its heartbeat weak, but there was still life. "I'll do everything I can," Ethan whispered, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. The mother dragon watched silently, her eyes never leaving the human as he worked. She had trusted him, despite everything she knew about her kind's deep history with humans, but in that moment, she could only hope that this stranger would be able to do what even her people could not. As the night began to fall, the only sound that could be heard in the silent forest was the soft breathing of the baby dragon, and the quiet, steady movements of Ethan working desperately to save its life. Ethan had been to many planets, helping with medical research and offering his skills as a healer. He had seen many strange creatures, but nothing quite like this. A massive dragon, standing taller than a building, had just landed in front of him and begged him to save its baby. The creature was both terrifying and majestic, her dark green scales glistening like polished stones under the twin suns. Her eyes, though, were full of fear, and that made Ethan hesitate. Ethan didn't know what to think. He had always been cautious around alien creatures. He had spent most of his life working on human colonies, far away from dangerous beasts like dragons. His job as a medic had never required him to face such powerful beings. But here, standing before him, was a creature who had shown an unexpected side vulnerability. The mother dragon's plea echoed in his mind. "Please, help my baby." The words were heavy with pain, a desperate cry from a mother who was willing to put aside her pride for the sake of her child. Ethan had seen people make difficult decisions. but never had he imagined that he would be standing face to face with a creature as powerful as this, asking for his help. He took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "I am not sure if I can," he muttered. His voice trembled slightly, but he tried to steady himself. He had a duty to try. He had to at least give it a chance. The dragon looked down at her baby, her large eyes softening as she carefully cradled the tiny creature in her claws. The baby dragon, its green scales still dull and lifeless, barely stirred. Its small chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Ethan could see that the situation was dire, and he knew he couldn't just walk away. He wasn't a warrior, and he didn't have the strength of a dragon, but he was a healer, and if there was one thing he knew, it was that there was always hope, no matter how small. "All right," he said, his voice more determined now. "I'll try. I can't promise anything, but I'll do my best." The mother dragon nodded slowly, her large wings shifting slightly. She moved back a few steps, her eyes never leaving Ethan or her baby. The air between them was tense, filled with uncertainty, but Ethan could feel a strange sense of responsibility wash over him. This wasn't just any creature in need of help. It was a mother, a creature with a deep unspoken bond to her child, and Ethan could see that bond in the way she looked at the baby, with a mixture of love and fear. Ethan knelt down beside the baby dragon, careful not to startle it. He placed his hands gently on its small, fragile body. The skin was cold too, cold for something that should have been full of life. He could feel the baby's heartbeat, weak and erratic. It was still alive, but just barely. His medical training had prepared him for many things, but nothing like this. He had studied alien biology before, but he had never encountered a creature like the dragon. He didn't have the tools he needed, and he didn't know how to cure whatever illness had taken hold of the baby. But there was something else, something he had learned from years of healing people, that told him he had to trust his instincts. The mother dragon was watching him closely, her eyes wide with anticipation. Ethan felt the weight of her gaze, and for a moment he was unsure of himself. But then he remembered the faces of those he had helped in the past, the ones who had survived against the odds because someone believed in them. He had to believe in the baby dragon now. He couldn't fail. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small device, a medical scanner that could analyze an alien body. He turned it on, watching the screen as it scanned the baby dragon's body. The device beeped and displayed a series of readings, most of which he didn't fully understand. But there was one thing he knew for sure: the baby was suffering from some kind of infection. Its body wasn't responding to the natural healing processes, and the infection was spreading quickly. Ethan looked back at the mother dragon, who seemed to understand his silence. "Is there anything you can do?" she asked softly, her voice shaking slightly. He sighed. "I'm not sure. This infection is unlike anything I've ever seen, but I can try something." The dragon's eyes filled with a new kind of hope, though it was clear that she was still unsure. Ethan knew that he had to work quickly, so he began to prepare the tools he had. He gathered a few healing herbs he had brought with him, carefully placing them into a makeshift mixture. He wasn't sure if they would work, but it was all he had. As he worked, he could feel the dragon's watchful eyes on him, her intense gaze never leaving him for a second. It was as if she was waiting for him to fail, but at the same time, there was a quiet trust building between them. Ethan understood that the dragon had no choice but to rely on him, even though she had every reason to doubt the mixture was ready. Ethan carefully placed his hands on the baby dragon again, applying the mixture to its body. The baby stirred slightly, a small, faint movement that gave Ethan a spark of hope. He continued working, applying more of the mixture and doing his best to stabilize the baby's condition. Minutes passed, and the mother dragon stood still, her breath slow and steady as she waited for any sign of improvement. Ethan kept his focus, knowing that every moment counted. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the baby dragon let out a small, soft sound. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make Ethan's heart race. The baby dragon's chest rose and fell more steadily now, the breathing becoming less labored. It wasn't fully out of danger, but it was a start. The mother dragon took a cautious step forward, her eyes filled with a mix of relief and disbelief. "Is it?" Ethan looked up at her, a smile creeping onto his face. "It's alive," he said quietly. "It's going to be okay." The mother dragon let out a soft sound, almost like a sigh of relief. Real shining tears began to form in her eyes as she lowered her head to her baby. For the first time since this nightmare had begun, there was a glimmer of hope in her heart. The night passed slowly, the air thick with tension as Ethan worked to save the baby dragon. The world around him was quiet, the only sounds being the occasional rustle of the trees as a soft breeze passed through the forest. The two suns had long since set, leaving the sky dark and cold. The stars above shone brightly, but the ground below was quiet, except for the slow, labored breathing of the baby dragon in Ethan's arms. He had been working for hours, his mind running 1,000 thoughts a minute, trying to figure out what was wrong with the baby. The infection was unlike anything he had ever encountered, and the mixture he had created didn't seem to be working fast enough. His hand shook as he carefully adjusted the baby's position, trying to keep it warm and stable. He had hoped for a quick improvement, but the reality was different. The baby was still weak, barely breathing, and Ethan could feel the weight of the dragon mother's gaze on him, full of both hope and fear. The mother dragon, despite her massive size and fierce nature, had softened in her approach. She had stepped back for a while, giving Ethan space to work, but now she stood by, watching every move he made. Her eyes, though filled with worry, were no longer filled with anger. She was trusting him, and that trust felt like a heavy burden. Ethan glanced up at her, his eyes tired but determined. "It's not working as quickly as I hoped," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. The dragon nodded, her wings twitching. Slightly she said nothing, but the silence between them was filled with unspoken understanding. She, too, was struggling with the fear that her baby might not survive. Ethan had no answers, but his training told him not to give up. He had faced many challenges in his life, but this was different. This wasn't just about curing a patient. It was about saving a life that meant everything to someone. Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow, his mind racing through every piece of knowledge he had. His medical training had taught him that sometimes the body needed more than just medicine. It needed time, rest, and care. But he was running out of time. The baby dragon's condition hadn't improved enough, and he feared that if he didn't do something soon, he might lose it. As he thought, he noticed something strange. The baby dragon's scales had started to shimmer slightly, a faint glow beginning to pulse from beneath its skin. Ethan leaned in, his curiosity piqued. The dragon was showing signs of life, but it was subtle, so subtle that it almost seemed like an illusion. He touched the baby's scales gently, and the glow flickered slightly. "What is this?" he muttered to himself. He had never seen a creature like this before, and the idea that the baby dragon might possess a natural healing ability had never crossed his mind. The mother dragon, hearing the change in Ethan's tone, moved closer. Her eyes were fixed on her baby, watching with a mixture of hope and fear. Ethan sat back on his heels, still watching the baby dragon carefully. "It might be trying to heal itself," he said slowly, "but it needs help. The infection is too strong for it to fight alone." The mother dragon nodded, her head dipping low. The trust she had placed in Ethan was now clearer than ever. She knew she couldn't help in the way humans could, but she was willing to do anything to save her child. Ethan took a deep breath. He needed a new plan, something that could work with the baby's natural abilities. Instead of fighting against them, he thought back to the herbs he had gathered earlier. Some of them were known for their healing properties, but others were known to strengthen the natural defenses of creatures like the baby dragon. It was risky, but if the baby's body was already beginning to heal, the herbs might be the catalyst it needed to fight off the infection. He began to prepare the herbs again, mixing them into a thick paste. This time, he focused on combining the healing and strengthening plants. He had to act fast. There was no time to waste. The mother dragon watched silently as Ethan worked, her body tense, her eyes never leaving her baby. Ethan could feel her presence behind him, a silent reminder of the weight of the situation. Every moment felt like a battle. Each second that passed, the chances of success seemed to grow smaller, but he couldn't give up now, not when there was still a chance. Once the paste was ready, he carefully applied it to the baby dragon's scales, massaging it gently into its skin. As soon as the paste touched the baby's body, the faint glow grew brighter. The baby's breathing became more rhythmic, less strained. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Was it working? The mother dragon stepped closer, her body still and watchful. She let out a low rumble, almost like a soft purr, and Ethan felt a warmth in her presence that made him feel like he wasn't alone. Despite the odds, despite everything that had happened so far, they were working together to save her baby. Time passed, and slowly, ever so slowly, the baby dragon began to show more signs of life. Its breathing steadied, its small body stopped trembling, and the color returned to its scales. It was weak, yes, but it was alive. Ethan let out a quiet sigh of relief. He had done it. The baby dragon was not out of danger yet, but it had survived. The worst of it, the infection was starting to retreat, and with time, the baby would recover completely. The mother dragon, her eyes glistening with tears, lowered her head to her baby, nuzzling it gently. For the first time since the ordeal began, a soft sound escaped her, almost like a sigh of relief. She turned to Ethan, her gaze full of gratitude, and something deeper than words could express. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse from the emotion. "Thank you for saving my child." Ethan smiled, exhausted but content. "It's not over yet, but we've made it this far." The mother dragon nodded, her large wings folding back slightly. "You have saved my baby," she said, her voice trembling, "and in doing so, you've earned my trust." Ethan, still kneeling by the baby dragon, looked up at the mother. "I'm just doing what I can." For the first time, the dragon's eyes softened, and Ethan knew that, despite the challenges ahead, they had crossed a line together, one that would change both their lives forever. The air was thick with tension as the first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, casting soft rays over the clearing where Ethan and the dragons had spent the night. The baby dragon, though still weak, had shown more signs of recovery, its breathing steady and its scales regaining their natural shine. Ethan watched over it carefully, making sure every minute was spent keeping the baby comfortable. The mother dragon, standing at a distance, kept a watchful eye on her child. She had not moved far, unwilling to leave her baby's side, and her gaze never wavered. Ethan was tired, his body aching from the long hours of work, but he refused to rest until he was sure that the baby was out of immediate danger. He could see the difference in the baby's condition. Its body wasn't trembling anymore, and the color had returned to its skin. The infection was retreating, but Ethan knew there was still a long way to go before the baby would be completely healthy. He had done what he could, but now it was all about giving the baby time to recover. As he sat next to the baby dragon, he noticed the mother dragon step closer. She lowered her massive head until it was level with him. Her eyes, once full of fear and anger, were now soft, full of something he couldn't quite describe. It wasn't just gratitude, though that was certainly there. It was something deeper, something that spoke to the bond between them, human and dragon. "You have done more than just save my child," the mother dragon rumbled, her voice still low but filled with emotion. "You've given me hope. You've shown me that there is more to humans than I've ever believed." Ethan met her gaze, surprised by the sincerity in her words. He had never expected the dragon to speak so openly with him, especially after such a short time. He had always seen dragons as creatures of pride, fierce and independent, but here she was, admitting that she had been wrong to underestimate him, and all because he had cared for her child. "I only did what I could," Ethan said quietly, his voice full of humility. "It wasn't easy, but I'm glad I could help." The mother dragon lowered her head even further, her great eyes shining with unshed tears. Her long tail flicked gently behind her, brushing against the earth. She let out a soft sigh, the sound both full of relief and sorrow. "I have lived for centuries, and I have seen much," she said, "but never have I witnessed something like this. You, a human, cared for my young when no one else would, and now, my heart is full, but it is also heavy." Ethan frowned, not fully understanding the weight of her words. "What do you mean?" The dragon closed her eyes for a moment, as though gathering her thoughts. "For so long I believed that humans and dragons were too different to ever truly understand each other. I have seen the wars, the fear, the hatred between our kinds, but you—" Her voice broke slightly, and she took a deep breath. "You've shown me that we are not so different, and now I fear that I may have failed you in some way." Ethan was stunned. He had always known that dragons had a reputation for being powerful and prideful, but he hadn't known how deep that pride ran. He hadn't expected this kind of vulnerability from a creature as ancient as the dragon. It was as if, in caring for her baby, he had unknowingly broken down the walls that had kept them apart for centuries. "Failed me," Ethan repeated, confused. "What do you mean?" The mother dragon raised her head, looking at him with an almost sorrowful expression. "My kind has always believed that emotions like trust and kindness are weaknesses," she said. "I have lived with that belief my entire life. And now, after seeing what you've done, I realize how wrong I was. I've closed myself off from others for so long, believing that no one could be trusted, and now, seeing what you did for my child, I feel ashamed." Ethan's heart softened at her words. He could see how much this meant to her, how much she was struggling with the realization that her own beliefs about humans had been shattered. He understood what it felt like to hold on to something for so long, only to have it slowly unravel in front of you. But he also understood that sometimes change was necessary, even if it was hard. You didn't fail anyone, Ethan said gently. You were just doing what you thought was right. We all have our own ways of seeing the world, but sometimes we need to open up and trust others. I know it's not easy, but it's worth it. The mother dragon seemed to ponder his words for a long moment. Her eyes glistened, the tears she had been holding back finally spilling over. Ethan watched in silence, unsure of what to do. He had never expected to be the one to comfort a dragon, let alone one as powerful as this. But in that moment, he realized that they were both learning something new. They were both growing. The dragon let out a deep, soft sigh. Thank you, she whispered, her voice full of raw emotion. Thank you for showing me that we can trust, that we can love, even when it seems impossible. Ethan nodded, his heart touched by her words. I didn't do it alone, he said quietly. It's not just me. Your strength is what brought us here. The mother dragon gazed down at her baby, who was now resting peacefully, the faint glow of life returning to its small form. She smiled, a gentle curve of her lips, and then turned back to Ethan. You have given me more than I could ever repay, she said, and for that, I will always be grateful. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him at her words. He hadn't expected to form such a bond with a dragon, let alone a bond so deep and full of meaning. He had come here to help, to do what he could, but he had found something far greater than he had ever imagined, a true connection with another being, one that transcended species, one that proved that kindness and trust could bridge even the greatest divides. The mother dragon took a final look at her baby, and then, with a powerful flap of her wings, she lifted herself into the air. Ethan watched her fly off into the sky, her form disappearing into the distance. As she vanished from view, he realized that he had not only saved a life, he had also changed the course of a powerful creature's heart, and for that he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Ethan knew that he had truly made a difference. The days that followed were filled with a quiet kind of tension. The baby dragon had made significant progress in its recovery, and the mother dragon had become more relaxed, though still cautious. She stayed close to her child, watching over it as Ethan continued to monitor the baby's health. There were still moments of uncertainty, but they were back as the days passed. Ethan became more accustomed to life with the dragons. The baby dragon, though still young and fragile, was growing stronger with each passing hour. The once frail creature now stretched its wings in small movements, testing them with every day. Its scales, once dull, had regained their vibrant color, and its eyes, which had been cloudy and weak, were now bright and full of curiosity. Ethan continued to monitor the baby's recovery, adjusting the herbs and remedies to help it grow stronger. The mother dragon watched over her child with quiet pride, never straying far. But there was something different in her demeanor now. Her gaze had softened toward Ethan, and the once tense air between them was replaced with a growing sense of camaraderie. One morning, as the sun rose and painted the sky with shades of pink and gold, Ethan sat near the baby dragon, observing its movements. The creature was attempting to walk, its legs unsteady but determined. It took a few awkward steps before stumbling and falling back to the ground. Ethan chuckled softly, knowing how hard it was for the baby to adjust to its new strength. You're getting better at this, Ethan said with a warm smile, though he knew the dragon couldn't understand him. The baby dragon let out a small, curious chirp in response, as if trying to show off. The mother dragon stood nearby, watching her child, with a proud gleam in her eyes. She had not spoken much in the past few days, but her presence was a constant comfort to Ethan. There was a quiet bond between them now, one that had formed through shared struggle and mutual understanding. She approached, her wings folding slightly. As she lowered her head to get a better look at her baby, Ethan turned to her, his voice soft but respectful. It's amazing how quickly it's recovering. I didn't think it would be possible this fast. The mother dragon nodded, her sharp eyes focused on her baby. It is remarkable, yes, she said, her voice low and thoughtful, but there is more to it than just your healing methods. This child has something within it. Something that I didn't realize until now. Ethan raised an eyebrow, curious. What do you mean? The mother dragon looked at him, her gaze intense. This baby is not just strong in body. It has a power that flows through its veins, one that is tied to the very heart of the dragons. It is something ancient, something we thought was lost. Ethan frowned, trying to understand. What kind of power? The dragon sighed, her eyes flickering with a hint of something ancient, something almost forgotten. It is the power of our ancestors. Long ago, the dragons were not just beasts of strength and fire. We had the ability to shape the very forces of nature, to bend the elements to our will. But over time, that power faded. Our pride and greed caused us to lose it, but my child has a spark of that power within it. Ethan was stunned. He had heard stories of dragons being able to